But the whole point and idea is that, like, for some people, when you deliver your message, your product, your service, they have some pretense and understanding of what they're buying. When they're buying a new roof, for instance, they know they need a new roof, or they want to change like the style of the roof. When people are getting their lawn cut, they know that their lawn needs to be cut. And if they are keen to that kind of stuff, they know it needs to be cut quite often to really maintain itself and grow healthily. I feel like when we get into the creative space, it's a lot different. It's not a 2 + 2 = 4 situation. It's more of like X times Z plus 2 = 5. Solve for Y. And if you realize that, I didn't give you a Y, did I? There was no Y. But there's still an equation to solve. And if you figure out why the fuck you're doing this shit, you can figure out the mathematics. And my point there is that there's a business aspect to this. If we're having this conversation, for me to be recording this video knowing who I am, and you probably don't, but I know who I am. I have no interest in recording this fucking video, but I know it's going to serve somebody. I don't have interest in doing this whole YouTube celebrity bullshit. I'm not into it. I'm telling you this because I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Knowing your audience is the difference between a 5-star review and a lifelong enemy. Knowing your audience and knowing who you're talking to, even just being humble sometimes, is the difference between a bullet in your head and people laughing at your jokes. I'm ornery, I'm not very likable, very nice guy. I'm a good guy, I'm not a nice guy. I'm kind, I'm not nice. I spend a lot of time on my own. I enjoy that, I like that. My struggles early on with knowing my audience was that I wrote the books. I didn't have a team, I had me, my perspective, and my time, energy, and money. And I don't really feel like I had a lot of any of that at that time period at all. I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of energy. I didn't have a lot of money. I was just kind of burning on empty trying to get this done. Just stress, coffee, and late nights, You find the time when you can. You scrap the money together. The opportunity cost. You pick if you're going to do advertising or buy weed. And sometimes, one day advertising wins over weed and you get some advertising experience. But more days that the things you should be doing win out over the things that can wait or the things that you can probably quit or give up. That's what you got to do. That's the opportunity cost in all this. So the opportunity cost is you have this book. Let me look down because I'm actually working on my stuff right now, which is why we're talking about this and doing this. Let me pick an easier one, I would say. I'm going to pick an easier one first and then a harder one. And then the easier one's going to be Noble Nuptials. So Noble Nuptials, or Nuptial, I think the actual title of the book is Nuptial, but there's only one actual marriage, I think. I don't know. I was trying not to give it away, but people that read more than one of my books have known that the polyamory, polygamy thing is a major trend in these books. Whether it's a good or bad portrayal of it, I feel like it's usually a pretty negative portrayal of it, but it's a constant portrayal of it. Because I can't do it. I can't do it in real life, so I got to fantasize about it on paper, And then I got to give myself a reason not to do it. Or I mean, not to do it. I'm sorry. Freudian slip. Freudian slip there. Give myself a reason not to do it. So for noble nuptials, Hari travels the planet for. I'm sorry, it's not a four. It's a two. I've written this by hand, so this is just my handwriting. Nahari travels the world to master his powers, but his father, the emperor, wants him to get married. How true to life is that? How real is that? At least I gave him a grandkid. I did not give him a wedding, but I gave him a grandkid. Statistics. Black and African American historical fiction, alternative fiction book, paranormal fantasy. The trick there, okay, that's a good one, is there that the other two books that I have on my list right now, paranormal urban fantasy. If I put this book into paranormal urban fantasy, there might be a few people that pick it up and buy it, but most people want to look at it and be like, what is this doing here? If you ever been to a library, which hopefully you have if you want to be an author, have you ever seen a book on the wrong shelf before? So when you find a book on the wrong shelf, it's not usually the book you're fucking looking for, is it? It's probably the book that you most ignore, if not report or something like that. Which leads to the one-star reviews. Is someone trying to tell you, like, hey, you don't belong here. But no, it's like a little cruel, it's a little upsetting, but if someone actually did purchase your book, or they did actually download it from Kindle Unlimited, they did actually take the time to read it, and it wasn't what they were expecting, well then, what do you expect? If it's not what they're expecting, then what are you supposed to expect from them not expecting what they expected from what they got? Because the actual results are the actual results of what they expected versus what they got, and that's the difference between success. So that is the equation there that I just gave it to you. X, Z plus 2 equals 5. What is expected versus what they got? X and Z. Plus 2 equals 5. I guess 5 could be anything, depending on the variables of X by Z. But in this situation of urban fantasy, they expected whatever the hell they expected. Probably not much. I don't know how I'm going to make this equal 5. I guess it's just a 3. Maybe they got a pretty good result, or something like that. Maybe they didn't get what they wanted at all. Maybe it's a 0. It's an absolute fucking 0. I think for the purposes of the equation, it would need to be a 3. If the first one is 1, then this would need to be a 3 to be 5. So that would be the answer to the equation that I literally made up inside my head. I did not write that down on a piece of paper. In future reference, if I ever think about something like that, I would like to write that down beforehand, so I'm not trying to do math on camera. But I think that would be 1 times 3 plus 2 equals 5. You didn't know what the hell X was, you didn't know how little Z was, so that's why you're here. What they expected versus what they got, how that works against you sometimes is they got a 0. Doesn't matter what they expected. Got a 0. And then it's just on the basis of how well you wrote the book. It's just on the basis of whether or not they're in a good mood that day. But the idea here is volume. And you get volume when you know your audience. You know exactly who you're looking for. I'm looking for independent artists, self-published artists, authors, musicians, any person trying to figure this out, but specifically authors. You don't want to get too broad because there's certain things, like I'll go on like certain these, Adam Ivy, I think that one of the dude's names is, I'll do like Adam Ivy, or like the dude that talks about owning your masters, and he's like, I told y'all this, I've been telling y'all this. Or Dorian from Group. I'll watch like the music guys, and I'll learn a lot about marketing and advertising and sales watching them. But I just realized that there isn't really a lot of that. There is a lot of tutorials and stuff like that, but I don't really, from my personal perspective, it might exist, it might be out there. I see people doing the kind of like I've taken like the YouTube tutorial classes. I just don't really like doing the whole. You can see my background, you see my setup. I'm in my garage. I'm not like in a studio or something like that. Like I'm literally inside of my actual garage right now. Like I don't know what else to give you. I don't know what else to give you. There's better like locations to film inside the house, but not at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the freaking morning, you know? So you deal with what you got, the actual results, versus what you expected. I expected to be a millionaire. The reality is that you probably could become a millionaire with books. But I think you would really have to understand how people become millionaires with music. A lot of them do it by the advance. So you sign with a publishing company, they give you some money, and then you try to live off of that. The other end of that, Chance the Rapper comes to mind, and you just hustle, bro. You just hustle, hustle, hustle. Public speaking gigs, you know, book tours, book signings, events, vending, you know, online self-distribution, self-promotion, advertising. It's there. It's definitely there. But the next phase of that, I believe personally, you can know your audience, but does your audience know you? Are you findable? Are you notable? Is there any sense of notoriety? When people say they know you or associate with you, is there any clout in that? Is there any relevance to knowing you, to being around you? And that's not how I deal with things or view things, but that's how I've been taught. That's how it feels to me personally. That's how it feels like people view me. I feel like life is a very what have you done for me lately experience. I feel like anything that you've done for a person more than a month ago, they have probably forgotten about or did not care about that much. Because people remember some shit from their childhood, you know, and that shit, they hold on to that shit real tight, real good. You know, I don't know what happens with adulthood, we just start forgetting everything. But probably because of childhood, probably because something happened in childhood. But you gotta know exactly who you're talking to. So Black and African American historical fiction. So there's an expectation there. You gotta clarify this ain't about slavery. Because every time people say that, they always go to the slavery card or shit like that, or Jim Crow or something. This is set in the 1300s. I do have like 9 different book hooks right now that I came up. I had like 1 or 2. I turned the 1 that I liked into 3, and from the 3 I got about 9 right now for that one specific book. I did that with each book. And then from then you gotta figure out, what does your audience like? Because I can sit here and just make book hooks all day. I can't. Like, it's hard. It's harder than it's a lot harder than it seems. You know, it's not like the words aren't just there. You have to have like actual ideas forming inside your mind, and then work to articulate this stuff out, and then work to write it down physically, because you might articulate it inside your head, but you didn't write it down on paper, so it doesn't mean any fucking thing to anybody. Because even if you're not going to publish it, even if you're not going to put it out there, nobody can gain value from it because it doesn't actually exist. It's just an idea in your mind. Once you write it down, once you put it out there, once you record it, it exists. It's a real thing that people can gravitate towards serving. So once you get that, you know your audience, you know Black and African American historical fiction. Okay. You got your 1 book hook, you got your what it is book hook, which we discuss. I haven't made a video about it yet. I'll guarantee you that. I guarantee you I haven't made a video about the majority of this stuff. So if there's any specific language I'm using, maybe ask a question and I'll make a video about the specific language for the time being. I'm just going to use the language I know, even if you consider it jargon, even if you feel like I'm speaking from authority towards you. What would be the point of this if I wasn't speaking from why would I be speaking at all if I wasn't speaking from some form of authority? Would be my perspective of me making a video about it. Like, what would be the purpose of me sitting here this late at night, taking my time to record this shit, to try to articulate and figure out the thoughts for this? I could be watching other YouTube videos right now. You know, like, just bear with me. Bear with me while I try to figure this out. I don't spend a lot of time talking to other people. I don't spend a lot of time around other people. So, like, give me a little time to figure this out as I decide my thoughts for this. I'll set this up perfectly for you. So let's go back. Let's go back a step. If your book is already published and you're just simply looking to market it, push it, advertise it right now. Okay. When your book is published, if it's not, if you're brand new and you don't have anything yet, that's fine. Be patient with yourself. Be understanding with yourself. If you ever have a book published and it's not selling, shut the fuck up and listen. Right? If you're new, God bless your soul. I'll just or just hurry the fuck up and write the goddamn book, stop holding yourself back. Go to Amazon. Go to Amazon. You can go to bklnk.com. Go to Zen category. I think that is called, or like a Zen category or something like that. You're going to need to go to Amazon regardless because you're going to need your ISIN number or you're going to need your IBSN 13. But once you do that, you could see what your categories are. And like for me personally, I've gotten to the phase of this. A lot of this time has been going off of feeling and going off of emotion and going off of passion. And they're like, oh, you're passionate about this. And it's like, no, I'm not I'm really good at it. And it's not like I'm not good at it compared to like people that have entire fucking publishing companies working on their book for them. But in terms of like humans that exist on the planet, I'm great at this. If you're gonna compare me to Shakespeare, I'm gonna lose. You know, if you're gonna compare me to James Patterson, I'm probably gonna lose. Or Cameron, I don't know, fucking James Cameron, James Patterson, one of the other motherfuckers. I'll probably lose that. No problem. I can accept that. I'll probably lose that. If you compare me to any other indie or self-published author, I blow them out the water. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. Side by side, I win every single time. You know, that's no smoke. That's just the truth. That's just reality. That's just hard work. So I'm not doing this. I feel like God has demanded that I do this. I feel like God has halted everything else going on in my life until I get the books out that He has asked me to write for Him. And that's the honest perspective that I can give you of me becoming an author. Because this is not something I would have picked for myself. This isn't fun. It's not entertaining. Like, no, it's a lot of fucking hard work and discipline and long nights, and there's no gratification. There's no thank you. No one knows what the hell you're doing, so everyone thinks you're lazy or crazy. Bear with me for a moment, please, because I don't get a lot of time to talk about this with people. You gotta go. You need to just reach a point where this is science. You know, you need to reach a point where this is scientific, where you're doing experimentation, and the passion and emotions have already passed. You might have been passionate about it at one point, but if you're too passionate, if you love your child to the point where you can't discipline them, it might have been too late, you know? And it's not to say that you don't have an amazing, wonderful child. You don't need to hit your kids. God forbid you raise your voice at them. But you need to find some way to give them some sense of internal regulation for the life around them. You know, for what they're going through. They can't just be going on wild, going crazy. And then when you finally lose patience, That's because then they may barely do anything, and you're so frustrated by the past 1,000 things, you're gonna blow up on them right now, scar them for life, and all they know is that they were watching the wrong TV show at that time period. They're not thinking about everything else that they did because they're children. You know, action by action, step by step. You need to take. You need to take this as a step by step process. Because you didn't get here and just dump a book out and just publish it. Maybe you did, and that's why you're not getting any fucking sales or any fucking attention. Because when I did shit like that, it didn't work. You know? So, if you're not getting any sales, that's probably the number one thing you might want to check for. Did you have a step-by-step process in doing this? And that's not to say that you need to use mine. That's not to say you need to use anybody else's. But this needs to be scientific. This needs to be systematic. This needs to be something that you can replicate for other people or for yourself or for each book that you write or for each character that you write or something of that nature. Because if it's not, there's going to be a limit to what you can produce. You know, there's a reason why George R. R. Martin does not write as quickly as you would like him to. It's because he's not that disciplined. And I know he's more disciplined than me, because he's farther ahead than me, but he's also working with an entire team to carry the weight of his lack of discipline as well. And I'm a huge fan of his. But hurry up. Hurry up. Please. Please hurry the fuck up, George R. R. Martin. Please hurry the fuck up, George R. R. Martin. Please. Hurry the fuck up, George R. R. Martin. Please. Please. That's not my audience. That's not my audience. Alright, let's hurry up with this. I'm not that entertaining. I'm obviously not that entertaining. Let's hurry up with this. You need to go to Amazon or go to booklink.com, but bklnk.com. You need to know what these databases think your book is. My understanding today versus when I started, today I understand it does not matter what I personally think about my book. It doesn't. I wrote it. No one gives a fuck about me anymore. People don't care about the author. They care about the book. Because that might be the only book of yours they ever read in their lifetime, you know? They might only read that one book that you've made, and if that one book that you wrote, I've had this happen a lot of times where people want to read my work, and it's like I have some books that were much stronger than others, some books that were much more open to others, but they would always want the books that I never felt were quite finished. But it didn't make sense for those books to be published, so I was punished for that, you know. It wasn't a warm reception. It wasn't well received. There are a lot of books I regret not having an ARC reader for. There are some books I regret not having an editor for. But they're published, they're out there, they sold copies already, somebody owns them. You can't go back now. But I do all the time. I do, and I've raised the values of those books significantly because some people have books that don't even exist anymore. Like, that's the only copy of that exists. Those 10 copies is it. Or those 5 copies is it. Because I've upgraded the book since then. But once you really know what category you're in, because you're going to have to go back anyway and do this when you use Insta Data Scraper, if you follow the Brian Cohen method, look to see what other books are in your category. Look to see what they're doing. You know, right click, open it up, boom, it's in there, it's in your face now, you see it. If you didn't, you're a lazy bastard. I'm joking. I get what she said when I'm mean now. I get what she said I'm mean. I can see it now. I've definitely become cynical and addled in my own views. I'm a big CM Punk fan. I was a big fan of Raven. So misanthropy definitely kind of runs its course through and through. You gotta really see how the databases view success. Because your view of success doesn't matter. Your view of success is why you don't have any money. Your view of success is why you're trying to be content with something that's lesser than your value. Your view of success is why you're trying to explain yourself to fucking idiots. Your view of success probably sucks. Let's be honest. It probably sucks. So how about instead of viewing success through your eyes or your parents' eyes, or viewing success through some fucker's life who you don't fucking want their goddamn life, so why the fuck would you want their view of success? How about you look at Amazon's view of fucking success? How about you look at the top fucking bestsellers in your category? Look at that first page. Look at the books that you would personally buy. And this is a key feature to this. You can either make this next step optional, but it's optionally mandatory. So you can choose not to do it, but you need to do it anyway. It doesn't matter whether or not you want to do it. Look at the books that you would spend your last. This is a real experience that I've had. Look at a book that you would spend your last $20 on. Your last $20 on, just to say you own it, just to say you read it. Maybe it's an ebook. Maybe you got $20 in your pocket. Maybe you can afford to spend $4.99 on an ebook. You know, which book would you spend your last $49.99 on? Your last $20 on? $20 is a lot more significant than me because that's a real shit to me. I was homeless, and Elliot Holst released this book called Becoming King, a book about kinghood and the four archetypes and relating that to fitness. And that's what really inspired a lot of muscle. I'm not gonna get into that shit. That's a tangent. That's a me. If everything else that I said this far I felt was somewhat relevant to making a good point, that would have been a tangent. But Elliot Holst released this book. It was $40. I'm homeless. I'm on a couch right now. I bought the fucking book. I bought the book and it helped. It helped tremendously. It helped a lot. Find a book you would spend your last $20 on. You don't have to actually spend the money on it. But I realize for a fact, the books that are like apparently very popular, maybe I'm just resentful. I'm not interested in them. That could just be me and my reading style, but I'm just really not that interested in them. And the only people I really see that are interested in them are book reviewers who are just doing whatever is popular to get views and clicks and likes. Because all the shit they do is fake. All this shit is fake. Let's be real. You know, maybe you're not at that stage yet. We'll talk about book promoters in another day. We'll do a book promotion experiment. I'll put some money in my pocket. I'll put some money on the table. We'll do a book promotion experiment one day. And we'll figure that out. Maybe a year from now. Not today. Not anytime soon. And this year, I'm not in the mood. All this shit is fake. Look at the shit you would personally like. Now, right-click that. Open a new tab. You know, I don't know how many people you want because this is gonna be work. This is gonna be work. So I always say start with one person. Start with one. This is your last $20. Your last 20. Start with one book on that first page. And if it is one of the first three, then who cares? That's great. That's wonderful. But we're looking for your audience. We're not looking for James Patterson. We're not gonna win with Patterson. We're not going to win there. We're not going to win with fucking George R. R. Martin. That's not our category. That's not what we're looking for. Look for what you would personally read, because more than likely what you write is what you would have read. I would imagine, right? So now you got this one person. Now you have one person. This one person has an Instagram. They have a Twitter. Maybe don't use their Facebook page. I don't know. Facebook kind of sucks. But I would use Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, maybe something like that where you can either have a public conversation with them or a private conversation, but you can somewhat get into their ether, their atmosphere. And if you're a true fan of them and you've never connected with them or you really would want to buy the book that they've written, maybe just follow them on Instagram anyway, because now you're just spreading the love, but you're also now connected to all the fucking people that make them and read their fucking books, and their book is something you would buy with your last $20 fucking. You would spend your last $20 to buy this person's book, and here is a group of people that follow this person who would also spend their last $20 and would also follow them. And you're now connected with all this simply by engaging and liking with them and taking a little bit of effort. I would also follow them on Amazon in case they release anything new, but none of that really matters right now. Fuck the social media shit. We're talking about social media, a whole different everything. Let's save social media for now. Look at their books. Look at their reviews. Look at the books that have the most reviews. Look at the books because that's obviously the book that sold the most copies. Whatever book has the most reviews, maybe it's not, maybe no one finished the book. Whatever book has the most reviews is more than likely the book that has sold the most copies. That's more than likely their most best book. Even if the book has zero, like a 1-star review or terrible reviews, you also want to gather that data. So open that up too. And now you can see maybe 1 to 5 books. Maybe they only got 1 book, and that's the only book they've ever written. I don't know. I don't care. But you can see the ad copy that they've used. If you go to their social media, you can see how they're posting on social media and how they're leveraging that. Sometimes you'll find people that have thousands of reviews and 800, like no bullshit, like 800 freaking Instagram followers. And you're like, how did that work out? Like, this book is like uber successful and this person's like virtually unknown. That typically means that they're using Amazon advertising. You may not be able to compete there. Depending on the quality of your book and depending on the quality of work that you've put into this, you may not actually be able to compete at Amazon ads at this time. You could try it. I definitely would recommend that you try it. It's really not that. It's really not expensive. It used to be type shit where you'd have to put down $100 no matter what, and I think that deterred a lot of people. But you wouldn't actually spend the whole $100. You just spend your budget would be $100, and you would spend within that budget, and it couldn't exceed $100. So I think for only lock screen ads right now, I think lock screen ads are the only ads that you have to put down a $100 deposit for. But Amazon advertising is honestly the least, in my personal, I've used advertising on everything but YouTube and Google because I really don't have any content that I want to advertise on YouTube or Google. I understand the process for it. I personally don't have anything. I'm at the point where I can compete on YouTube. I don't have anything where I can compete on Google. I can compete at least on Amazon Books and KDP. I can at least compete within these specific genres. And notice that I didn't just go for historical fiction. We went for Black and African American historical fiction. And honestly, the real category we're going to be aiming for is finding some form of historical fantasy or alternative history. We can add those categories as well because you want to, in a sense, narrow their search down so much that everybody says yes. When you're super duper broad, you're not, it's like the term that if you're selling to everybody, you're selling to nobody. It's because everyone has the potential and power to say no. If you're selling to everybody, this isn't something everybody wants. This isn't something everybody's interested in. This isn't something everyone's going to spend the last $20 on. And even if they spent the money on it, especially the last bit of money, it's not something that they're probably going to like to the extent that they're going to leave a positive review or even an average review. It's very extreme. Some people will give you a 4 because they hate on you a little bit, but it's like a big variation of such of what you're going through there. Between that 5-star and 1-star review, is someone who may love to read, but they don't like to read fantasy. And you gave them a fantasy book, and they gave it their best shot, and now you have a 3-star review because they finished it. It was a good book, but they didn't like it. I couldn't get into it. It was too far out there. It was too far out there. I couldn't connect with it. I didn't understand it. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? When you really tap into the people that want to read your work, it's the greatest feeling you've ever felt before. If you've become cynical about marketing, you're cynical about advertising, it's probably because you don't know what you're doing. I would probably say that first and foremost. If you don't like it, you probably have no idea what you're doing. And I say that because I don't enjoy doing things that I personally don't like. Things that I feel like I'm not good at, I usually ask other people to do it. Things that I don't know, I usually ask someone who I feel is an expert in that category for their perspective, or what they would do, or how to do it, period. That's just me. Some people are idiots. Some people aren't fucking geniuses. Some people will just try to figure it out themselves, and, good luck to them. Good luck. Because that's your competition, is the people who are not watching this versus the people who are trying to figure it out themselves. If you can let me gather my thoughts, I'm going to get better at this process of delivering these videos over time. But if you let me gather my thoughts and get my shit together, you're further ahead. Even these tidbits that I'm dropping on you, like, further ahead. Because they don't have the knowledge already. They didn't already do this experience. And, they say those that can't do teach. I'm not really trying to teach you, to be honest. I'm trying to gain some level of, online notoriety and fame. And instead of doing it in a vain pursuit, I would rather do it trying to serve and trying to help people. And especially trying to help people that would have gone through my situation. For the people that wanted this dream so badly that they're willing to sacrifice everything to do it, I would rather help you out than just do online challenges and shit like that for fame. I would rather try to help somebody. Once you really understand what works, though, because you know your audience, that's first. Now your audience knows you to some degree because now you're connecting with these top name authors or these middle range authors. Maybe you went 3, 4, 5, 10, 100 pages in. I don't know how big your category is. If it's romance, it's huge. You probably should quit that. You should probably niche down within romance because that's a lot of competition. Next book. Oh, you didn't know you were getting another book. That was the next book. Next book. Let's do Boyhood. That's a good one. God has chosen Morgan as the Messiah of Gaia, but he is raised by non-believers. I actually edited that on what is typed. This is the draft, but the actual thing is different than that. There's 8 of those, I believe. I think there's 8 of those. 8 or 5. One of these has 5, because I was at 6, but I don't fuck with 6s. So it was either I'd make another one, which would take 5 to 20 minutes, depending how much intention I wanted to put into it. But if it's going to be good, it would probably take about 20, 30 minutes. So I cut one down, I just made one a little bit larger, and I cut one back, and I went to 5. You get 5 on that. But I wanted to say earlier, I'll reach back to that. We'll do that. That's legit jargon. We'll do it. What it is copy is jargon. What it is copy. Do you know what that means? Do you know what it means when I say what it is copy? You think I'm trying to make some slang at you? That's not slang. That is not slang. So let's not even focus on that right now. I'll come back to that. Paranormal and urban fantasy. That's the category for Boyhood. But is it really? Is there like, because it's different when there's like sex in the book and romance. Like in Noble Nuptials, there's like sex and all that kind of stuff. In Boyhood, I think there's like one kind of coming of age intimate scene. Might be more than one if I don't clearly remember what I wrote. Sometimes I write the shit and I don't remember what I wrote. I wrote it so long ago. I've read it and I read it and I can't believe what's on the paper. I was like, wow, I can't believe I made it in there. And of course it did because I edited it myself and like no one told me to cut it other than myself. A book like Boyhood, it was very difficult because this book, the title is very old. The title is actually one of the first books I've ever wrote, but when it was first published, it was honestly just written. It wasn't written. It was like a series of different, like, it was a collection of different books that all kind of streamed to the same type of purpose, but didn't really add up to a coherent, succinct narrative. It was just kind of like a series of short stories, kind of like horror stories for brown folks, but way back in the day, that kind of concept. And then trying to force it all together to say that I wrote a book. Well, I came back years later. I wrote an actual narrative for it. There was an actual narrative, but there was no like tread line to kind of thread it all together. And then there was one opening section that kind of distracted from the entire story and went to a different direction. Birth of the Brotherhood, that's in Wattpad right now for free. You can read it anytime that you want to. Birth of the Brotherhood. It's not that good. It kind of sucks, actually. You might actually get bored. You might actually get bored with the first, like... It's just kind of it just kind of drags on and on and on and on and on. It just kind of just goes, you know. So... there was no audience to begin with. The audience didn't really know me, but when the audience encountered the book, it would be a book that they were very interested to read, but it didn't really quite deliver on what was advertised. What was advertised was a story of an elemental child soldier messiah fighting the devil. And it is that over the course of the entire series, over the course of multiple books, you know, you build up to that part. But then you have to break it down to what that specific book is about if it's a standalone book. If it's a book in a series, you know, you might be, you can either be questioning your reader's intelligence, or you can be challenging their intelligence, or you can be insulting their intelligence, depending what you do. You can be insulting their intelligence if you're just writing a bunch of random fucking stories. None of it's coherent. And you just don't think they're going to be smart enough to figure it out. And if they do, you're just going to say they're stupid or something like that. Or you can be kind of like, in my sense, overestimating their intelligence by quite a large margin to think that people would have the patience, not even their intelligence, but just like their character, you know, just overestimating the individual within itself, period, in any capacity. Even though I think patience is like a sign of intellect. Overestimating someone's patience to sit through a book that they completely understand nothing about for this thin veil of narrative just to better understand a bunch of other books that were better written. That's the type of shit that would make you never want to never want to read from that author again, because I really doubt the perspective from someone who's never met me before, does not know me, and has never had a conversation with me. Maybe there's more to him than this, you know? Because it's like their ideas, you wrote this book, it takes a lot of effort to write a book, so you must really be attached to everything inside of the book. Some of us are more gifted than others. Some of us have certain abilities that other people don't have, and whether they're attached to what they're writing or not, whether they care about what they're writing or not, whether they're passionate about it or not, they can produce it and you can't. So that is the reality that we live in with that. I have the capability to produce it. And some of the stuff I produced at a time that I might have resonated with it, but I was like a fucking kid. I was like fucking 20. You know, some of the shit I wrote when I was like 19, 20, maybe leading into 21. And once I was 21, I was drunk for a lot of that. So like, I don't remember. I don't remember a lot of what was written or what happened there. I remember having like these wild fucking sessions when I would get like high and play like I had like a record player and I would play music on my record player. And I would listen to music on my record player half naked and I'd be writing on fucking paper and just writing and writing and writing and writing and shit like that. It was really fucking like epic. Maybe don't replicate it, maybe do replicate it. Don't expect a lot of success or progress if you do replicate it. Expect a good time, but don't expect anything else other than a good time from that. So a lot of that stuff that was produced was half-baked. It wasn't a really good idea. It was completely incoherent. The parts that I wrote when I was high completely didn't connect to the other parts. And then if you're reading that as a sober-minded person, imagine someone who's never fucking drank at all, smoked before at all, and you're reading something that I wrote at that time period, it's gonna be the worst piece of writing you've probably ever seen before in your life. I think what someone told me when I was about 21 years old was that I write like a sixth grader. I think hopefully I got to like the eighth grade by now. Hopefully. You know, because it's like, at least I'm smarter than a fifth grader. That was like, I passed that at least. I passed fifth grade at least. That shit's nice, for real. But, whew. It wasn't really this type of experience or this type of thing where it was going to produce any real results. Because it wasn't made for market, it wasn't made for an audience, it wasn't made to be found by an audience. I didn't really expect anything at all at that point in time. Thought I'd probably have to work forever, and I still do, you know. Still need to find money by all means possible. And you still need a shit ton of, like, a crazy amount of money to live in America. Even if you move to a different country as an American, you're still going to need American money to move where the hell you want to move to. So, you're a little stuck, mate. You're a little fucked on that. If you're not writing for market to some degree, and I think it has like a really naughty name, you know, knowing your audience and writing to market, is that your market is your audience. And if you're not writing for an audience, I know that the experience of reading a book and writing a book and reading a book is like having a series of individual conversations with somebody. But since you're essentially saying the exact same thing every single time to the point that you would sound like a broken record, you're better off probably recording yourself once or twice. Maybe the first time sucks, you got to do it over again, you know, or writing the book, you know, leaving it to that, making an ebook, leaving it to that, and then you once again just have an audience. Because when you get to the point where you're writing for multiple people, you're writing for hundreds of people, you're writing for thousands of people, you're writing for an audience of people, you're writing for a market. So you're working against your own self not to write to market. You're writing against your own self. You're working against yourself if you're not doing this for the money and you only want people to read the book. Because for the great majority of people, your book is considered as a product. It's going to be very hard for them to obtain the book if they can't pay for it. They need to pay you for the book to own the book. You know? If you're going to give the book away for free, it costs the same amount of money, and if you're not a very wealthy or very rich person, or you're not like a 40-year-old, or the case for a lot of authors that I'm seeing is that a lot of them are like 60 or so years old, and they've been saving up money to do this. This is something they've wanted to do forever. They've been writing forever, and this is just now their opportunity to commit all their time and energy to doing this before they die, so they don't die forgotten, which is a very noble cause. Don't fucking make fun of that. That is a beautiful fucking thing, and if you laughed at that, fuck you. You're probably going to hell for that, because that's a beautiful fucking thing. You know, but that's still your competition, and that's a lot of competition to have, is someone who's had 60, 70 years of wanting to do this, and you're 30 and you're trying to figure it out in a goddamn decade. You know, that's your competition. It's like
going to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament or a wrestling tournament, and you get paired up against the old guy in the 60s, and you're thinking, man, this is going to be a cakewalk. He's been waiting to beat your ass. He's been waiting to be an old man so he can beat up guys your age. He was waiting on that his whole life. That's why he looks like that. That's why he's there. He came there to kick your ass. So, again, we're not competing with them. We're not fucking with those guys. Leave them to what they're doing, because those guys are trying to compete with Patterson before they die. Those guys are trying to. That's what Patterson essentially was. That's what Cameron essentially. That's what fucking Stephen King essentially was. That's what a lot of these guys essentially were. Because it takes a long time to figure this out. It takes a long time to figure out your style. But if you're not figuring out your audience in the time of doing that, and I think the two things need to happen almost simultaneously, which is the copywriting process that we're going to go through, and the promotion, marketing, sales, advertising process, all that fucking bullshit. You have to be doing a lot of this thing simultaneously. Because if you're doing what I did, I wrote inside of a vacuum. I wrote in like complete isolation. And then I just released the work. No hype, no marketing, no promotion, no word of mouth, no nothing. The only word of mouth was me talking to people about the books, and I got as far as I did by talking to as many people as I talked to about my work. Took a lot of work, took a lot of effort that I really sincerely don't think I had the energy to ever replicate again. So I had to find a brand new method of doing things, because I could not continue just doing door-to-door word-of-mouth marketing the way I was doing it. That kind of direct marketing bullshit, which made me understand why all this internet shit is real. It's real. It's there. It's bullshit to the fact that a lot of people will lie about their success. I don't benefit from lying to you. I really don't. I don't benefit from lying to you. I've sold thousands of copies of books. I have 5 best-selling books. I have 5 best-selling books. I gave them all away for free. I didn't make any money off of it, And for some people, I'm their favorite author. For some people, I'm their arch nemesis, so they fucking hate me. I'm their boss battle. It really doesn't concern me, because I view people the same. I'm no respecter of persons. I would rather just be by myself and be alone at this point in time in my life. Maybe that will change in a year or two. Maybe that'll change in a decade. Maybe it'll never change. I don't know. People are very fickle. But this is one area of life that I know very well. I pray that you've gained some value of this. I pray that you, probably don't have the patience to sit through this in one setting. So I figured if you got to this point, let me know if I was right in this. The journey was probably first 1 minute, you turned it off. For those of you that actually finished it, I'd probably say you probably got 5 minutes and you're like, man, I don't think I can listen to this guy. Fucking went away, popped up again, came back, you're like, yeah. But another 5-10 minutes in, you're like, he knows what he's talking about, but he sounds drunk or high or something like that, which you would be correct. Good job. Both, actually. Good job, both. It's incredible you figure that out all by yourself. And then you'll probably come back, you'll probably stay for a little bit longer, like, wow, it's kind of fucking entertaining, pretty funny. And then you get to the end, you're like, wow, I actually should have took notes. And you didn't, did you? No, you didn't. That's why you're not successful. That's why you're not successful. You didn't take any notes. You slipped on me. You thought because I wasn't wearing a shirt or something, you should take notes. I used to be 325 pounds. You see the way I look? Just take notes. Take notes. Take notes. Humble yourself. Take notes. That's what I got here. I humbled myself. I took notes. I went to the library every fucking day for a year. That's straight. Often. Not every day. I went to the library a lot on the basis of it, damn near every day. There are definitely days that I missed. There are definitely days I did not make it there. There are definitely days I had to work or had other things to do. Definitely. But damn near every single fucking day I went to the library. I studied. I took out books. And then after I got done reading those books, I would take notes. I couldn't highlight them because they were library books, so I had to take notes. Real talk. So I read the book, and then I would go back, and then in a day, time is finite. You gotta die one day. So in that day, I would take notes throughout the entire book, and I wouldn't leave the library until I finished the entire book. And then I'd go to Wendy's and get a 4 for $4. It was great. It was miserable, but it was great. Those are the defining moments that shape and morph you as a person. And those are the defining moments that make you make a 55-minute video so that other people don't have to go through that experience. Because a lot of those books probably could have been like a 10-minute video or a 50-minute video. Instead, it was a book. So what I'm evolving into and trying to do now is try to make this more accessible to people who are cognitively challenged. And they don't have the patience, I would say, maybe not the intellect, but the patience, I would say, to read a book. Because I really think that's the only thing limiting a lot of you. You say time. Time is you externalizing your issues so that you don't have to take responsibility for them. Bullshit. You don't have the self-discipline, you don't have the patience to sit down and read a book. It's not about time. You got plenty of time. It's finite, but you still got 24 hours in a day. You could spend 5 to 20 minutes reading. You got to go to the toilet eventually. You got to take a crap at least once a week. Hopefully you're taking a poop at least once a day or so, every few days. If not, you're full of shit. Whose fault is that but yours? It's no one else's fault but yours. So, don't be a dick, don't be full of shit, don't be an asshole. Treat people well, treat people with love and respect. Work hard, all that kind, but work smart. Work smart. And learn from the experience of other people so that you can prevent going through the shit that they had to go through. Because through that, we all get better. Man, I'm gonna be able to work on my posture doing this. Man, I was comfortable beforehand, man, but I'm done. I'm done. 57 minutes, that's it. If you watch this, hope that you get value. By the time that I start recording the actual course for this, because I want to make a course, I'm gonna try to cut this back a bit. But the people that are in my audience, the people that I want in my audience, because that's the third phase here. The third step is, who do you want in your audience? Do you know your audience? Does your audience know you? But who do you actually want in your audience? Who do you actually want to read your book? I feel like if you can't listen to me for an hour on YouTube, the chances of you sitting down and watching one of my audiobooks or reading one of my books or reading my entire series is null and void. So this would be longer form content just because I have a little issue kind of distilling these ideas down. This is my first time talking about a lot of this stuff. And I'm not even aware of what's going to come out of my mouth. I'm not even aware of how much I know or don't know on the subject. So there might be some shit you got to Google search and figure it out on your own, like I did. But I'm at least going to help you cover the gaps of what I do know so far and what I do understand. And then in revealing the things that I do not know and I do not understand, I can now research those things and study those things better and then become amazing at them. And then maybe I'll teach you and maybe I won't. But for now, we're working on the things that I currently know and do understand. Because they also say that when you teach others, you teach yourself and you better understand it for yourself as well. So I'm going to teach it to you so I can better understand it for me. And so that we can better understand it together, we can help each other out. And hopefully form a community, because I just don't feel like there's a really healthy writers community. I think you have writers that suck and they make it a horrible experience for everyone involved. And then you have writers that are amazing at it, but most of the readers are also writers, or aspiring writers, so they only read what's popular so they can learn how to write popular books, but they're not reading what's good so they can learn how to make good books that actually entertain people. Healthy balance of both. But I feel like to summarize all this, if you know your audience, and not just who you think is your audience, because you might like people that don't like you. You might love someone who doesn't think you like them at all, that kind of shit. But at the end of the day, and ultimately, you can access a database. You can know exactly how the database feels about your writing or work from the people buying your work and looking at your work and reading your work and that you're selling your work on and all that good stuff. And you can use the actual analytics and the actual fucking data. Ain't that amazing? When you go to YouTube and social media to figure out what posts work and what posts don't work, you don't have to just keep posting what you like to post, because what you like to post might suck. It might be counterproductive content that is pushing more people away than attracting them to your standpoint. Your delivery might suck, and that might be pushing more people away than it pulls them forward. Over time, you really kind of have to identify these things and work on it from there, because you can't just wing it. You can't. You can, but you're gonna waste like a lot of time doing so. But you can't just wing it, man. You don't have to use my method. You may not have even made it this far. Maybe I didn't even post this hour after hour. I'm definitely posting this shit after I spent an hour doing it. Yeah, it's probably the worst video I've ever fucking made before, but it's been over an hour I'm posting it. And just kind of have more of that type of mentality, You've worked hard on your book. You want people to read it. They can't read it unless they buy it. So if you don't sell it to them, they're probably never going to read it. Because, selling is just helping them make a decision. Selling isn't coercion. That's coercion. That's extortion. If you're forcing someone to buy your book, you're extorting them. That's illegal. You go to jail for that. And that's when you get 1-star reviews. But you give people an offer that they don't mind spending the last $5.99 on, $4.99, last $20 on, because you're delivering a product that they know is going to over-deliver, not under-deliver, over-deliver. You're delivering something great, and you're delivering it, first off, to who Amazon thinks you're supposed to be selling your book to. That's the most important factor in quality, because they're going to help you generate sales, because when you make money, they make money. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that a wonderful symbiotic relationship that you should establish with someone like me? When they make money, you make money. And when you make money, they make money. You work together in that regard. But specifically on the one product that you two have produced together, and that is your books, your work. So the more that you sell, the more Amazon gets. So if you look at Amazon's cheat codes for you within this process, cheat code number 1 is, if you go to your Amazon book page, it's right there. It shows you what category you should be in. It shows you what niche you need to be in. And that's where you need to centralize your social media, your posting, your advertising, and everything that you do from that standpoint. Not from what you feel, not from what you looked up on Google, because Google doesn't know shit about you specifically as a person. It has a lot of broad, generalized data. All it's doing is throwing it at your face. It's not even reading it for you. It's just throwing it at your face. You can't just Google this stuff. Because then you got to know, after you look through Google, what's a reliable resource and not a reliable resource. I don't want to get lost in a tangent again. That was a tangent. But you find the category that the platform that you're selling on believes you should be in, and switch that shit as well, man. Go into KDP, go into Ingram, Spark, whatever you got to do, switch that shit around so that your books are in that category, and do it as soon as possible. As soon as you figure it out, if they're not aligned already. If they are aligned and it is what you already set already, then good job. For me, it wasn't. For me, when I looked it up, I got a lot of different keywords and a lot of different categories, because you're only allowed like 1 or 2, I believe, but it would pop up in all these different sections and areas. And even then, the sections and areas have different subsections. I really recommend going to bklnk.com. I'm not sponsored for that or anything. If they wanted to sponsor me, I would probably consider it. I don't know. I don't use anything on some of theirs other than that, so I don't really know what a sponsorship from them would really do for either of us, because I don't know what the fuck else to tell you about them other than that. But that one thing is super fucking useful. Seriously. Because it's you're only allowed 2 categories on Amazon. You can have, I believe, 7 or 8 keywords. I think it's 8. I think it's 5 and then 3 or some shit like that. I don't fucking know. I haven't worked on keywords in a while. But from there, second cheat code is also bots, but not just that. Now that you have the category, you have a list of all the authors inside of that category with you. If you worked hard enough and you went to like page 1000, you might even find your own book, you know? You might. I don't know. Maybe you're on the first page. Maybe you're on the third, fourth, fifth page. Work towards that. Because now you can see who else is there. Now you can see what kind of methods they are using. Now you can see what kind of blurbs they're using, what kind of descriptions they're using. You can follow them on social media and see what kind of social media you're doing. But also you can just network with them and just get to know them as people and have like a civil relationship without stealing their shit. Because maybe if you just reached out and spoke to them, they would just fucking tell you what to do. Rather than you just stealing the shit, not knowing what the fuck you're stealing. You know? Just give it, just saying. You know? It would probably help you more if you built a personal relationship, because if it's an author doing a lot better than you, I would probably want them as my friend rather than my enemy. I would probably want them on my team rather than, you know, being a comment. Don't be one of these other boys out here, these fucking haters. You know, because a lot of these authors are like crazy, man. Like absolutely fucking batshit crazy and ludicrous. To the point that they would make like a 1 hour and 7 minute video about themselves, you know, just talking at you and hoping that they're delivering some form of coherent message and information and knowledge, but ultimately, you know, just going through the recesses of my own mind and trying to deliver something of value to you. God's work, you know, doing God's work right now. Third thing is really being specific for your personal stuff. You can't control who reads your book. But looking for the books that you would personally buy yourself. And then seeing what they're doing to connect with their people, looking what their cover looks like. And you're not going to be able to take their cover. You may not even be able to find their cover designer. If they're a decent person, they might have put their cover designer up there. But they may not even be able to find who designed their cover. But you can see the type of cover that they're making. You can see if there's any consistency with their series and that. You can just see what works, you know, and not be afraid. Because if you're going to sell your work at Amazon, you shouldn't be afraid of looking through the Amazon website. This is not a competition. It's not. There's not even enough people to compete over. There are simply just people that enjoy reading books. And honestly, your only job is to make your book as easy to read as possible. And even if it's a more intellectual book or it's like a high art, epic fantasy or something like that, you know, the job is just to make the book as easy as possible for people that already enjoy reading, because the more difficult it is for them to do what they do, the less books they're going to be able to read, and then they're not going to be able to get to you on page 1000 or page 100 or page 5 or page 1. I really doubt you're on page 1. I doubt either of us are on page 1 right now. But we can get there one day. You might be there for one day. You might be there for a week. You might be there for a year, a decade. Okay, let's stop counting. Let's stop lying to you. Stop lying to you. Stop lying to you. I'm be honest with you. You can probably break the first 1 to 10 pages. You could probably break the first top 3 pages. It doesn't really matter, because all you really need to do is to find an audience to go into. Create for that audience, serve that audience, and that audience is going to give you all the feedback that you need. And then if you want to branch out, feel free to branch out and do what you got to do. But I would commit a year or so. I would commit a few years to serving an audience, because that's what I intend to do right now. And I've been doing that with urban fiction, urban fantasy for a while. Maybe I haven't done the best job as like advertising my books as that, because again, I'm still learning like you're learning. I'm still figuring this out. And there's just a lot of oversight as well. There's a lot of oversight. There's a lot of things that you'll know to do, but you just kind of like slip your mind to do because it will take about 30 to an hour, but that 30 minutes to an hour is going to be filled with incessant bullshit that might make it take an hour and a half, 2 hours. And you gotta find some time in your day to do that. And you can't even find time to read or exercise. This is about discipline. I don't know if the videos are going to be shorter from this point, hopefully, because I'm exhausted now. I'm like super duper. I had planned to be up a lot longer than this, maybe not too much longer, but like now I'm fucking tired after doing this. So I'm more than likely not recording a video tomorrow, to be honest with you. Probably for the best for everyone involved. Because this is a lot more work than it looks like. It's a lot more work than it looks like talking this long. I'm spent, man. Like this is a lot of talking. I think I've been talking for like the rest of the week now. This was enough words for the rest of the week for me. Oh man. But it was nice to get it all out. It was nice to finally talk about writing, to get this all out. And the way that this flowed so naturally, this is definitely a direction I want to move in. So maybe I'll stop talking so much about politics and conspiracy theories and racist white supremacists. And I could spend a year or two talking about writing. C'est la vie.